now time for the Billy C. Show, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C. Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening. I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizza and Italian Restaurant, located on beautiful St. Simons Island in Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Find out why I go all the way to St. Simons for an authentic Italian meal. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week television channel. That's right, Billy C. Boxing is available on Ginico USA television, which is through all of the major streaming channels like Roku, etc. So make sure you check it out, GinicoUSA.com. Sign up right now and make sure you use the code BillyC. And finally, today's show is being brought to us in part by, you guessed it, my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right here, right now, while you're watching or listening to this show. Just go to BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. If you're looking to get a signed copy, don't worry about it. Just drop me an email, Billy@TalkinBoxing. I'll spell it for you, TalkinBoxing.com, and I'll hook you up. Coming up a little bit later on the show, we have our normal suspects in crime, or what's that term? Whatever. It's been a while, man. Yeah, we've been having some issues. We did a big system upgrade, and the handshaking was a little shaky, if you know what I mean. So I apologize for that. I've been getting a lot of emails. What happened? What are you doing? Phone calls. Oh, where do I find you now? Would you move? No. But you can always check us out on Ginico USA, or go to YouTube, youtube.com/talkinboxing, TalkinBoxing.com. Shout out to all of our radio affiliates. We're glad to have you part of the family. All right, let's start with the show right now. In some fights, there's so many topics I wanted to talk about over the last several weeks, and just didn't get the opportunity. But here's the thing. Last night, we got a fight in the middleweight division, and I got a couple of decent emails. One specifically from my man Mitch, actually two from Mitch, but concerning Charlo and his title and some of the moves that they made, the WBC. Now, of all the sanctioning bodies, you have to lean towards the WBC as being the best of the worst. I mean, they're all sharks, but the truth of the matter is the WBC, you would have to assume, is the most credible, at least in my opinion, until you start coming to the belt situation where they hand out belts and create belts, and everybody must get a belt, But in any event, let's go to the results. I'm going to talk a lot about middleweights and heavyweights today. Jermall Charlo improved to 28-0 with 21 knockouts when he won a 12-round unanimous decision over Brandon Adams, who drops his third fight of his career. He's now 21-3. With 13 of his wins coming by knockout. The way the judges scored it, 119-109, and two had it a complete shutout, 120-108. Charlo didn't want to make any excuses after the fight, but he said the reason why he didn't knock out Adams is because he hurt his hand. He also said he's the best middleweight in the world today, and says everybody else is ducking him. First and foremost, Charlo looked good, but who has Charlo fought? I mean, let's be 100% real here. Who has Jermall Charlo fought? I mean, he's part of the PBC group, that whole let's not fight anybody mantra that they do. What bothers me is that all of a sudden they come out and they beat a guy that no disrespect to Brandon Adams, but he certainly wasn't. He's certainly not a world beater in my opinion. He's a tough fighter, but he didn't have much experience. I met the guy personally when he was doing the Contender thing, the competition. He was for ESPN. Actually, when ESPN did the middleweight tournament, he was part of it. He might have been junior middleweight. Was a big kid, but anyway, nice guy, real nice guy, but not that experienced. Didn't have an extensive amateur career. Was another sport athlete. I believe he played football. But my point is when you watch the fight, clearly he had no defensive skill. And he took the best that Charlo could offer. When you look at Charlo's record, show me one guy that he fought. I mean, you could say one of his best wins had to be against Julian Williams, where he stopped him in 5. But even so, I mean, his last fights, Adams, Korobov, Centino Jr., who he stopped. But you could give him credit for that based on the record. See, if you look at this guy's resume, all of the fighters he's fought all had good-looking records. But as far as their overall talent, not so much. Charlo, it's a good story, and he's ranked number 4 in the world by the computer. He's only 29. He and his twin, both champions. They're just not that good. The way the boxing landscape is today, they don't get a chance to get good. And hold that thought for a minute, because the next middleweight I want to talk about is Demetrius Andrade, and he fought last night as well. He took on Magic Saluki and won a unanimous decision. All 3 judges scored that 120 to 107. Looked like Demetrius was going to change his ways, so to speak, and fight an exciting fight when he dropped Saliki in the first round, but then went back to the same old Demetrius Andrade, and he just won a non-inspiring, non-action-packed 12-round decision, thus being the problem with Demetrius Andrade. He doesn't go in for the kill. He's not an exciting fighter, and his value is not there. So if you take these 2 middleweights, and you look at the current rankings in the world today, based on a computer. Now, I have to look at the computer rankings as being somewhat legit, because they take or do I? I'll get to that in a second. They take the formula of who they fought, who they beat, who the opponents fought and who they beat, et cetera, et cetera. And the way it unfolds is right now, the middleweight division, as of this morning, number 1 middleweight in the world, which comes to no surprise to me, and I'm sure not to anyone else out there, is Saul Canelo Alvarez. Number 2, which also does not come to any surprise to me, and it shouldn't to anybody out there, is Triple G. Number 3 does not come to any surprise to me, nor should it come to a surprise to anybody out there. Number 3 is Danny Jacobs. This is where I start to get a little confused. Because from number 4, who Jamal Charlo, incidentally, is sitting at, from number 4 down, you can make an argument that you can insert any of these other middleweights. You know why? Because the middleweight division is weak. It's terrible. I didn't even realize how weak and terrible it was until I watched the Charlo fight last night. And then I said, oh, man, look, he's fighting nobody. And I look at the ratings, and guess what? His opponent that he fought last night, Brandon Adams, is actually ranked number 14 in the world. So he's fought a top 15 guy. Number 4 is Charlo. Number 5 is Horn. Number 6 is David Lemieux. When was the last time he even fought at middleweight? Number 7 is Andrade, who I'm talking about now. Number 8 is Rob Brandt. Number 9 is Sergey Deverenchenko. And number 10 is Saluki, who Demetrius Andrade fought. If Charlo claims he's the best, why not fight another top guy like Demetrius Andrade, or even a David Lemieux who can't make weight, or even a Jeff Horn who's just a tough guy. Personally, I'd like to see Charlo fight a guy like Jeff Horn, because Jeff Horn would come right at him, and we would see what kind of talent level Charlo actually has. No disrespect to Brandon Adams, but the truth of the matter is that Adams, with his wild looping, who knows where they're going to land type of punches, connected with Charlo often last night. So I just, it makes me laugh to see how the middleweight division really sits right now. But what makes it even worse is the whole computer rankings. Here I am talking about the computer rankings and giving credit. Oh, yeah. For what's and giggles, I wanted to see what the computer ranked as the all-time ratings for both active or inactive middleweights. And I was shocked at what printed out. Again, it's the same as the active, the top 50. Well, the number one ranked middleweight in the world historically, based on the computer's point system, is Carlos Monzon. Now, I'm not that upset that Carlos Monzon happens to be number one, but Sugar Ray Robinson is number 3. Now, I know Sugar Ray Robinson was considered the best welterweight of all time. Unfortunately, a lot of those fights are lost forever, so there's no video. But surely, most of his career he fought at middleweight. Most of his publicized and televised career was at middleweight. And no disrespect to Carlos Monzon, but I would certainly think that Robinson would finish number one via the computer. The guy who finished ahead of Sugar Ray Robinson, aside from number one Carlos Monzon, was Bernard Hopkins. Now, again, no disrespect. Bernard Hopkins is clearly a Hall of Famer and an all-time great. But number 2 middleweight ever? Hagler is number 4. Harry Greb is number 5. Harry Greb, you can make the argument, could be number 1. James Toney, number 6. Fulmer, number 7. Emil Griffith, number 8. Canelo is already ranked at number 9 as an all-time great middleweight by the computer. Triple G is number 12. Sergio Martinez is number 13, which, no disrespect to Sergio. I know Alex and Dax, if they're listening right now, are going to get PO'd out at me. But Sergio Martinez, certainly I would look at him, if anything, as a junior middleweight. Jermaine Taylor is in the top 20 at number 17. Stanley Ketchel is all the way down at number 20. Daniel Jacobs is even in the mix. And in case you were wondering, Charlo is not in the mix. But one of the guys that I'm glad did make the cut in terms of top 50 as far as the computer's concerned is Iran Barkley at number 46. But I'm a little confused with some of the rankings in there for sure. As far as Demetrius Andrade goes, again, in my opinion, an extremely boring fighter. Unfortunately, I know he's a talented fighter. I have nothing against the guy. I like him. It's just, you have to have a level of excitement if you want to make the money, But then again, who knows? Maybe she's all changed. I don't know. Some other fights I wanted to talk about, and I'll get Dax and Alex's thoughts on that a little bit later on the show. But some other things I wanted to talk about real quick. Joseph Parker was back in the ring, and he improved to 26 wins and 2 losses, with 18 of his wins coming by knockout when he stopped Alex Lepai, who drops to 32-8 with 4 draws and 25 knockouts. Took place in Providence, Rhode Island. Samoan heavyweights, two of them, and they're fighting at the Dunkin' Donuts Center in Providence, Rhode Island. A little shocking, but hey, congrats to all the people that actually went out to that fight. 2 minutes and 18 seconds in the 10th round was the official time. And speaking of New England, in a sense, former light heavyweight champion Chad Dawson, who still goes by the name Bad Chad Dawson. He's just bad. He's not like bad as in bad means good, but he's just bad. He improved to 35-5. He scored a 8-round unanimous decision over Quentin Rankin, who drops to 15 wins, 6 losses, and a couple of draws. 80-68 and 78-72 twice were the way the judges scored that fight. So some other things I wanted to talk about in follow-up with this topic before we get Dax on the phone is the WBC and the whole follow the bouncing world championship belt. Charlo, going into this fight when it was signed, was the interim WBC world middleweight champion. Well, over the past week or so, the WBC has made Saul Canelo Alvarez the WBC's franchise champion. He's also the Diamond Belt champion, which I believe is their version of the super middleweight champion, therefore making Jermall Charlo the regular old world champion, which is all crazy. You got to beat somebody to become a champion. And that somebody that I believe Charlo has to beat is either Triple G or Daniel Jacobs. I mean, let's be real. I'd even accept it if he could beat Andre in, a fight that I would think Charlo would force Andre to fight. But anyway, my man Mitch sent me a couple of emails. And the first one is the franchise champion. He was making some comments on it. Mitch said, so now they made Saul Canelo Alvarez the franchise middleweight champion, and they make Jermall Charlo the full world champion for beating exactly who? And he agrees with me. He says, no one. He says, so they continue to protect and bend over backwards for Canelo. They force a fight between Charlo and Triple G if he's supposed to get a belt before earning a third fight with Canelo. And that, to me, is kind of crazy. If they're forcing Charlo to fight Triple G, why isn't Canelo fighting Triple G? I mean, let me tell you, when I was in Vegas for the fight, Triple G against, Canelo Alvarez against Daniel Jacobs, Triple G was there. And when they put the camera on him, which was the case for the only time I've ever seen an audience after a camera is on Triple G, boo him. And at first I was like, what the hell? But then I realized what the reason was. The reason is that Canelo Alvarez, his arch enemy, his nemesis, is Triple G. And the fans of Canelo know that. That's why they booed Triple G. It was kind of if this sounds like an oxymoron, it was kind of like a respectful boo. It wasn't like a boo-hoo. It was just like a boo, but it was like a respectable boo, if you know what I mean. It's like, who boos? Who boos respectful boos? But anyway, the truth of the matter is that they give this guy a belt to set up a fight because they want Triple G to earn a belt. Like he's got to prove that he's good enough to fight Canelo. And the truth of the matter is they're just hoping this guy gets so old that, he needs to get wheeled into the ring to fight Canelo again. You could make the argument that Triple G won both of the fights against Canelo. I mean, come on. Although the second fight was a better performance by Canelo. Anyway, he says they get another sanctioning fee by adding another level to their title. Ironically, Charlo fought for the title, and they made a sanctioning fee last night. He says they've ruined the chance for Alvarez-Charlo fight. which I don't know if I agree with Mitch on that one. He says this BS basically excludes Canelo from any obligations as a champion. They'll let him do whatever he wants on a case-by-case basis. He can walk around and call himself the champ and not be obligated to fight a mandatory. Basically, the WBC has stepped to Canelo and said, Charlo has been your mandatory for a while now. Any chance you want to fight him before 2021? And Canelo says no. So they create another belt for him. And Charlo looks like he'll fight Triple G. He says, what a joke. He says, but I've studied this more, and he says it makes even less sense. He says, I mean, a sanctioning body getting fees makes sense. I get that. He says, this is an email from Mitch. He says, the WBC is in bed with certain promoters that I won't name. And in parentheses, he puts PBC. But it's not just them, though, Mitch. You know that. Rigondeaux gets a title shot next. Wilder's been receiving favoritism. He says, I get all of that. But the WBC is also in bed with Saul Canelo Alvarez because he's the number one American breadwinner. Dollars make sense. Here's what gets him, though. This is Mitch. It says if Canelo moves up a weight class and he becomes a franchise champion of that weight class too, rumor has it that he's fighting Kovalev in September and not Triple G because Triple G wanted to fight anywhere but Vegas. But then again, Triple G probably would have accepted and settled to fight in Mexico or Vegas, or to fight in Mexico over Vegas. So he says if he leapfrogs the division and does the same, does he become the franchise guy of that weight class? Mitch says yes. In this case, fighting Kovalev means Alvarez would be 2 weight classes above the middleweight, thus making him the light heavyweight franchise champion, meaning he leapfrogs Godzadek as the man in that division. So then what happens in the middleweight division? You move Charlo up to a second time without fighting anyone and make him the franchise champion, and then move Andrade or Golovkin or whoever, Charlo's current mandatory is up to the full champion, while Charlo gets the tag. And so now he, meaning Charlo, doesn't have to fight his mandatory now, as was the case with Alvarez. He says no. So in a scenario where Charlo were to fight Canelo, which it doesn't look like it's going to happen, but entertain me. He says if Charlo were to beat Canelo, he becomes the new franchise champion, right? He says, no, he just gets the diamond belt. He says, I still don't know what that belt is. He says, so the diamond champion would put Charlo in line to fight the WBC against who? And that's the question. He says himself, because he was the champ, right? So Charlo would fight himself, right? No. He says, okay, Alvarez. No, he lost to Charlo, so he can't be the diamond champion, but he remains franchise champ, right? He says, I guess Charlo would have to fight himself. Or do they make up a vacant belt and install 2 guys to fight for the right to face Charlo, thus making the winner the interim champ? Come on, Billy C., help me understand it. It's hard to understand. Thanks for the email, and I understand your frustration, Mitch. It's hard to understand because it's impossible to understand. The bottom line is this. Yes. That's the bottom line. No, yes, sanctioning organizations make their money from sanctioning fees. There's no question about that. We all understand that. And we've all grown to accept it. We've also grown to accept the fact that there are multiple champions because we hold on to now linear championship. And Dax made a comment earlier about Sergio Martinez. Well, he was a linear champ. But that doesn't mean that he, in all time, that he falls in, I'm sorry, no disrespect, number 13 all-time great middleweights. I'm sorry, it doesn't happen. I don't care. I don't care that he was a linear champ. It doesn't matter. He's not the 13th greatest middleweight of all time. It doesn't happen. I'm sorry. Barkley was better than him. As a middleweight. But anyway, so the belt situation is a joke. When you look at, and this is just computer, forget the WBC rankings. See, that's the other problem. The problem is every sanctioning body has their own rankings. So they'll value a guy that's ranked number 5 in their own rankings, even though that guy might be ranked by the computer at number 25. It doesn't matter. the sanctioning body will still rank that guy as their fifth best middleweight. Okay, so when you look at that, it adds a lot of fighters into the mix. Do we have too many titles? Of course we do. Of course we do. If we have to accept 5 major sanctioning bodies, then we should only be forced to accept one champion for each of those major 5 in each division. But 5 isn't enough, apparently, because each division has 5. Each sanctioning body has 5 champions within each weight class. So the middleweight division has 5 champions, basically, in every single sanctioning body. And what the WBC here now is doing, I'm not going to blame them for the diamond belt, because the diamond belt is basically their choice of words for their super title. So where the WBA would have a regular world champion, then they have their super world champion. Well, it's the same thing with the WBC. They have their regular world champion, and then they have their diamond world champion, which is their version of a super world champion. And by the way, the WBC takes it a step further, because they do have an interim champion title, and they do have a silver belt world title holder, which used to be their interim. So maybe the WBC has actually kicked it up a notch by adding the franchise divisional champion. Mitch is right. It's totally ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. But what I feel is ridiculous is the division in itself, because the truth of the matter is after you take those top 3, the middleweight division is a 3-headed division, in my opinion. You got Canelo, Triple G, and Danny Jacobs in the top 3, ranked in that order: Canelo, Triple G, and Jacobs, which I can't argue with. Canelo did beat Triple G, whether you agree with it or not. Triple G hasn't fought anyone like Canelo since the Canelo fight. Canelo fought Danny Jacobs. Listen, I didn't like the whole thing with Canelo and Triple G, the whole tainted beef. I lost a lot of respect for Canelo. But at the end of the day, you got to give credit where credit's due. Saul Canelo Alvarez has fought the best of the best in multiple weight classes. And if my man Mitch is correct, and he's predicting or he knows that Canelo is going to be fighting Sergey Kovalev next in Vegas in September, that ought to be an interesting fight, and it ought to be another notch for Canelo. My question is, how dangerous of a fight is it for Canelo? And you know why I'm going to tell you right now, if it happens, why it's not a dangerous fight for Canelo? Because Kovalev, what's his weakness, boys and girls? What's his one weakness that he has shown? As a matter of fact, in my opinion, he quit against Andre Ward because of it. Right, body shots. He don't like to get hit in the midsection. And if Canelo can do anything well, he does a lot of things well. I didn't mean it to sound like that, but if he does anything exceptionally well, it's clearly working the body. So that would be an interesting fight. But to be honest with you, I would like to see the Canelo Alvarez Triple G trilogy. I think Triple G deserves it. I don't know how many more fights Triple G has left in fight, but Danny Jacobs against Charlo, I'd love to see that. I'd like to see Charlo fight someone that is a major player. How about Demetrius Andrade and Jamal Charlo? Demetrius Andrade just can't fight an exciting fight. Charlo at least tries. Now, he hasn't fought anybody of the caliber of Demetrius Andrade, so why don't those two fight? I would settle for a Jeff Horn against Charlo fight. I really would. Not that Jeff Horn is any, no disrespect to him, but I don't think he's a world beater, but he's a tough guy. And I think a tough guy with a little more skill than Brandon Adams displayed last night would give Charlo trouble. All right. Brandon Adams is a tough guy, but just didn't have the skill set. So Charlo was never really in any kind of danger. But I think he could technically be in some kind of danger with Jeff Horn or a power puncher like David Lemieux. But the fight I would like to see would be Demetrius Andrade against Jamal Charlo. I think that's a good fight to have. But anyway, listen, I'm going to take a short break. And when I come back, I'm scheduled to have Dax Khan join us. And we'll get his thoughts on Charlo and the middleweight division and some other things. So don't go nowhere.
Billy C will be right back.
Have osteoarthritis in one or both knees? If you have osteoarthritis in one or both knees, are you on Medicare, Obamacare, or other health insurance? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a prescription strength solution for osteoarthritis of the knees, covered by Medicare at little to absolutely no cost to you. We also offer a prescription strength top pain relief ointment that can be used for pain experienced on other areas of your body. Our experienced staff will work with your doctor and handle all of your Medicare or insurance paperwork. Best of all, your prescription is shipped directly for osteoarthritis of the knee or for a topical pain relief ointment covered by Medicare or private insurance at little or no cost to you.
Find out for free by calling the Back and Knee Pain Center at 1-800-604-1072. That's 1-800-604-1072, 1-800-604-1072.
Medical alarms for people who fall or have medical emergencies. You never think you need one until you do. Hi, I'm Lonnie Anderson for Advantage Alert. Today, our advanced systems locate and protect people inside and outside their homes, plus when they're on the road, allowing users with the press of a button to speak with an operator who can summon help. And even after 30 years, Advantage Alert products remain amazingly affordable.
Call 800-985-1705.
Addiction is an epidemic in America. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction, you need to call the R360 Network now.
I'm Ken Seeley, author, addiction recovery specialist, and former addict. R360 is a nationwide network of addiction recovery specialists that I personally selected and recommend.
The call is free, the consultation is free. If you have private insurance, your treatment could be covered with no out-of-pocket cost.
Call 800-705-0023.
Addiction.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you!
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C Show. Glad you could be with us. Don't forget about our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week television channel. That's right. Check it out. It's on Roku and all the major streaming platforms. Just visit Ginico USA and sign up today. That's GinicoUSA.com. And make sure you use the code Billy C. Joining us right now is my man Dax Khan. Good morning, Dax.
Good morning, Billy C.
So last night, I watched a fight, and let's talk about Charlo first. I watched a fight, and I like Adams. I mean, I like him because I met him. He's a really nice kid. He's always smiling and stuff. But let's be real, he's not that talented. of a boxer. He fought Charlo, and Charlo looked good against him. What was your thoughts of the fight?
I didn't think he looked that good against him. He had a guy there who couldn't hit him. But I mean, that's it. I didn't think he looked good against him. I don't think Charlo looked good in his last couple fights.
Both Charlo brothers to me, Dax, and they're overrated, and it just seems to be becoming synonymous with the PBC fighters. And again, I don't want to just bash them. There's some talent there, but they don't seem to display it against top opposition. Now, Charlo's ranked number 4 by the computer, and I just don't understand how it is. I used to be very supportive of the computer rankings, but it's getting hard for me to understand where they come up with this.
Well, I think it goes by his overall, the points, not just in middleweight, but of course it is unfair considering he's new to the division. I think that was only his 3rd or 4th fight. But before we go any further on that, first let's just say, I understand a lot of people are upset, rightfully so, with the elevation of Canelo as a franchise. I just want to say this absurdities of Canelo ducking Charlo that have been just seem flooding the internet ever since then. It's just I don't understand. It's really out of control, and not because I don't want to harp on these titles, but the WBA will not be outdone. They will not be out-titled by anybody because now have Guerrero now is. So never. Suleiman, do not think you can out-title the WBA because it won't happen.
I like that. Nobody's out-titling the WBA, right? But it was kind of a weird move. And it's funny that the Charlo fan base is trying to make it like Canelo ducked him. I looked at it as Canelo trying to avoid a fight with the 3rd fight against Triple G. That's the way I looked at it. And my man Mitch, I read the email. He made an interesting point.
I don't think so.
Well, he made an interesting point about the possibility of Canelo fighting Kovalev, which, they're trying to, solidify that Canelo is a pound-for-pound fighter. He's already fought at super middleweight. He's fought junior middleweight, light heavyweight. What's your thoughts on a potential matchup with Kovalev?
Well, first of all, definitely Canelo is a pound-for-pound fighter. Do I think he's better than Lomachenko or Crawford? Of course not. But he's definitely a pound-for-pound fighter and probably has the best resume in boxing at the moment.
He does. You got to give him credit for that. The fans got to give him credit for that.
But I have a feeling, and this is just my opinion, some people I've been speaking with, Canelo was raised to that franchise champion because the WBC has been wanting another Julio Cesar Chavez for a very long time, and not junior, we mean senior. But I also think that Canelo, his career is going to be short. I think they're going to try and either get that Callum Smith fight or the Kovalev fight, and if he wins that, I think we might see Canelo in 1 or 2 more fights, and I think he's going to retire relatively young. He has a lot of money, and his spot in history would have already been solidified, and I think that Oscar and people around him and the way that they're bringing Canelo along, and that plan is not to have Canelo be one of the guys that was a great that stayed around too long because he accomplished so much before 30 years old.
Yeah, but Dax, look at it this way, and you know what? You make a great point, and logic would direct most people right down that path. But let's be real. Let's take a look at who the potential fights that he would have over the next half a dozen years. And is there really anybody out there that it would give him much trouble, with the exception of Triple G? And they're waiting for Triple G to start collecting Social Security before they want to fight him again. I mean, there's no one out there, at least currently, unless somebody comes in out of left field, that would seem to give Canelo any kind of trouble.
No, I agree. Especially as we've seen Canelo just get better. He does. He gets better fight after fight. There's no way to deny that, no matter what your opinion is of him. But also, Oscar De La Hoya, and I had this discussion, this debate with somebody the other day. Oscar De La Hoya was always the A side, And even coming off a loss, he fought the very best guy he can get into the ring. He could have taken any fight and still made big money, but he always made sure he fought the best. And Canelo, just like we spoke to him in Vegas, and I've spoke to him on other occasions, he wants Canelo to have that same path, but of course he doesn't want Canelo to have stuck around for 1 or 2 fights too long, and he doesn't want Canelo to go out on a loss like he did. He went out on a win, but he doesn't want Canelo to go out on those losses against guys like a Mayweather and a Pacquiao, because Canelo really does have the opportunity to be the most marketable and probably the most profitable fighter of this era, and probably in another 7 or 8 fights he could be just behind Floyd Mayweather in terms of gross earnings for this era.
Yeah, it's interesting. For me, he just seems like you said, and you made a great point, that he does get better and better. It's something I don't even think of, but it's true. And there's no one really. I mean, the guy hasn't looked bad. If he started to decline a little, I could see. But let me ask you this: Demetrius Andrade fought Saluki last night. And the knock on Demetrius, aside from him staying too long with his previous promotional outfit, I should say they're plural. He's a talented fighter, but he's boring. And last night, first round, he drops Saluki in that first round, and I said to myself, "Oh man, this might turn into something interesting." And then it went right back to Demetrius Andrade. It's hurting his career, in my opinion, for fighting with safety first. What's next for him?
That's a good question, and I've thought about that with Andrade for quite a while, where he seems to be complacent with doing just enough to win, where he knows, okay, it's not a close fight, I'm winning, and he doesn't have that next gear. He did stop Akavov in his last outing, but other than that, his last stoppage win was 2016, even when he went over and won that WBA title from Koke. The only thing I can really say about him that is special is that he's so defensive and hard to hit in the middle of the ring, not laying on the ropes, not running around like a lot of other guys. And that's what, separates him. But in terms of wanting to solidify himself as that top name or get into that discussion, or anybody sit there and say that, Demetrius Andrade is a guy that I can't wait to see next and have any sort of possible long-term deal beyond what he already has in place, he's not doing enough to make himself that marketable. And that's something he's going to have to do against other top names, because we're criticizing Charlo, but on the same hand, it's been a long time since Andrade has fought at that level as well.
The thing is because of all the sanctioning bodies, it almost, prevents a fight. So when I look at the current middleweight computer rankings, Canelo is number 1, Triple G number 2, Danny Jacobs number 3. No arguments there. To me, it's a 3-headed division. I never really realized how weak the division is because those top 3 are all so good. But when you look from Danny Jacobs down, Charlo's number 4, Horn's number 5, Lemieux's number 6. I can't even remember the last time he actually fought at middleweight. Dimitri's number 7, Brandt's 8, Devenchenko's 9, and Saluki's number 10. Charlo, I would like to see a guy like Demetrius Andrade or even a Jeff Horn. What's your thoughts on the possibility of him fighting somebody like that, or do you think he's going to pull up another one of these guys, Brandon Adams, who incidentally was that number 14 by the computer?
Well, PBC has become proficient in doing that with their fighters. They're big name fighters. Look what they did with Adonis Stevenson for so long. And, Charlo, considering, his brother that lost to Tony Harrison has really hurt his marketability. And that whole thing where they made Jimmy Lennon last night say one of the two twin boxing sensations. Right now, I think the PBC, they're worried of risking another loss because the Charlos, their whole marketability really is the twins, both holding those titles and stuff, So a loss for both of them having a loss now, all of a sudden, there goes a franchise more or less.
No, you're right. Their main marketing tool is the fact that they're twins. And, the thing is that I can't help but recall the clip everybody saw. It went viral of the Jamal Charlo talking to Danny Jacobs in the at Madison Square Garden, down in the hallways of the dressing rooms.
That was at the Barclays Center, yeah.
Well, was it? I thought it was at the Garden. Oh,
No,
okay.
at the Barclays Center, yeah.
At the Barclays Center. And the truth of the matter is he was talking smack to him, and he's never said nothing since. There's a fight I'd like to see.
He didn't really talk smack to him. That's where Charlo kind of understood the street part in Danny Jacobs, because Charlo had been talking a lot about Danny Jacobs online and in interviews, and Danny Jacobs just happened to see him in the hallway out of the corner of his eye, and he turned around, he confronted him. Danny Jacobs said, what, let's get this fight. And, Charlo, all of a sudden, his whole demeanor and his whole attitude changed. The whole little group of PBC guys gathered around, and then they start talking, money and everything. No, I don't think he wanted any part of Danny Jacobs. No. And I still don't think he wants any part of Danny Jacobs. Danny Jacobs, despite maybe, the Canelo fight, when Danny Jacobs, in any point in time in the past, he's had a statement to make. Danny Jacobs is a dangerous fighter, and he hits hard and a lot harder than Charlo, and he's a big guy.
And Charlo last night was saying, typical. I don't want to make excuses, but the reason why I didn't knock him out is because of my hand, But he said he was the best middleweight in the world. Says that Canelo's ducking him. Says he wants to make it. Says he's taking over. Blah blah blah.
What about Jim Gray saying, how do you feel about Triple G and Canelo avoiding you? Well, what, Jim Gray? I'm embarrassed for you.
Yeah, no, Jim Gray is a joke. But the truth of the matter is that they're trying to they're brainwashing a fan base to think that those guys are ducking Charlo. That's the PBC. How many times? Stop and think. Every PBC fighter that's a champion of sorts cries the same thing, that the rest of the boxing world in their division is ducking them. It's the same thing. That's how they get their fans to think they're good, because they certainly don't prove it in the ring, Dax.
Some do. Don't get, let's not be too harsh. Some do, and we can't say that the guys don't want to fight the other fighters, but they're not the ones that make their matches. A lot of them guys didn't have a big backing when they signed with the PBC, so the PBC more or less is their backing, and the guys that have PBC, regardless of what everybody thinks, just everybody signed with Eddie Hearn, and then we'll have the big fights.
Well, Eddie Hearn has been very successful, and I see that the other promoters are either letting him drive the bus, or they're trying to compete in a smaller version of stuff like Eddie Hearn, like their own streaming system or something along those lines, and it's not working. Hey, I know we've been trying to talk about some stuff that you wanted to talk about last week, and actually the week before, but let's talk about the World Boxing Super Series. Marius Briedis stopped Glowacki, and he picked up the WBO cruiserweight title. Also, Dorticos knocked out Tabiti, which having Tabiti get knocked out didn't surprise me. But now it's those two in the final. But there was some issues with the Glowacki-Briedis fight, and the elbow sticks in my head. What's your thoughts on the way that whole fight turned out and where we're heading with the final?
Well, Robert Byrd, horrible job. I don't know what the Byrd, him and Adelaide, I don't know how they keep getting work. But, Glowacki, I watched that a couple times. I can't really tell if Glowacki intentionally threw that punch behind the head and that was a retaliation by Briedis. But either way, it was definitely something that Briedis looked straight at Glowacki and then used that elbow. And then when Glowacki fell down to his knee, at first I'm thinking to myself, is he faking? What's going on here? Because he didn't really, just drop right down. And then when that next round started, you could see he was already hurt. They shouldn't have even let him take those other punches. But a lot of people are saying that Briedis is a dirty fighter. Whether he is or whether he isn't, I don't know. The finals of this is certainly not as appetizing as the final in the first season. But the cruiserweight division is more or less thinned out now, considering that Alexander Usyk and Gassiev have both moved up to heavyweight.
Well, let's go back one step. When he went down, What was your thoughts with your boy Bird yelling at him to get up? It's like, how did he miss that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm just sitting there saying to I don't know how he did that. That's the thing. It's like, how did you miss that? That's why I mentioned what a horrible job that was. I don't know how he missed that. He didn't jump in when the punch was in the back of the head. He should have jumped in then. And then he definitely should have jumped in with the elbow. There's no way he could have missed that. This is why, we should have Ron Lipton or Charlie Fitch over there refereeing these fights if you're going to send American referees over there.
You mentioned Usyk leaving the division, moving up to heavyweight. He's already named the WBO mandatory challenger. I have a problem with that, Dax. I have no problems with Usyk moving up. I mean, personally, I know it's a money move. I would have liked to have seen him stay in the cruiserweight division only because I feel the cruiserweight division needs a handful of superstars like they seemingly have to get it on the map here in the States. We're the only place that doesn't value the cruiserweight in the sport of boxing. But to be named a mandatory prior to even fighting, I have a problem with that. What's your thoughts?
Well, the WBA has 300 titles. But the WBO, they give a luxury rather than a title, and that's that WBO Super Champion, which allows that guy who is not just the WBO champion, but he has to be unified to get the privilege of calling out the champion in the division below or the division above and become whenever they want to, more or less. Whenever they want to fight that fighter in that division below or above, they're given that luxury.
Well, I know they do have that. I know, but it doesn't make sense.
We've seen that.
It doesn't make sense.
How many times have we seen it in the past, whether or not it's the WBC or WBA? A guy is a champion in the lower weight class. He moves up, and all of a sudden, he's getting a fight against, the champion.
Demetrius Andrade. He was a junior middleweight champ, and then
he was the WBA champion.
But he immediately got a shot at the WBO title.
That's because Eddie Hearn, just like Danny Jacobs, immediately got a shot at the IBF title.
Well, it carried through. It seemed to have carried through to a degree for him. But one other thing I wanted to talk to you about real quickly was Tyson Fury was in the ring a couple weeks ago and took care of a young fighter out of Germany named Tom Schwartz, knocked him out at 2 minutes and 54 seconds of the second round. He is now 28-0 with a draw and 20 knockouts. Schwartz losing really only for the first time of his career, 24-1 now with 16 knockouts. The heavyweight division, I think, has come into focus, Dax. And I think the guy who's at the top of the division, putting every title aside, is Tyson Fury. What's your thoughts?
I believe so, and I've said that on here many times. Right now, he's getting a lot of backlash for that fight. And that more or less tells you what the public's consensus is, that he is the top guy in that division, because only the top guy gets that backlash for fighting an opponent like Tom Schwartz. They want you to fight the absolute best all the time, whether or not it's an Anthony Joshua, an Andy Ruiz, a Deontay Wilder, and so on. So right now, though, in order for Tyson Fury to maintain that status and for him to get those alphabet titles, he's going to have to be facing the guys who don't have those belts. And what a lot of people don't realize or understand, that wasn't so much a fight where they were looking for somebody to make Fury look good. It was a tactical move because Schwartz had one of those minor WBO titles, and that places Fury in a position to fight either Andy Ruiz within a fight or two, or if Usyk and Ruiz should fight, the winner of that bout, however it goes. But either way, it places Tyson Fury in a position, and that was a tactical move rather than, just a money grab or a gimme opponent.
The thing is that Tom Schwartz was a up-and-coming, young, undefeated fighter. And traditionally, when we see these any division, but we're talking about heavyweights now, they seem to avoid those kinds of fighters. When they're, there's, of course, the big fight that they're aiming for, and the road to that big fight is usually littered with maybe some guys that are on their way down, or guys trying to get their shot again, has-been fighters, former champions, guys with a lot of mileage on them, versus the young fighter. Now, granted, Tom Schwartz didn't have a sparkling resume either, but I don't see why he's getting a lot of flack over fighting an undefeated young fighter, in my opinion.
With Tyson Fury, just like with Canelo, and I said this to somebody the other day, that Canelo can talk the talk because he walks the walk. Tyson Fury, so far, has walked the walk for everything he has talked. He told me, I remember, he was going to chase Klitschko to the end of the earth, and he was going to end that reign. He told us he was going to come back from that layoff, the problem with drugs and depression, and he was going to slim down, and he was going to go in there and become one of the top heavyweights again, and he did. He told us that he was going to make Deontay Wilder look like an amateur in the ring, and he did. So far, Tyson Fury has done everything he said he was going to do. He is a great showman, and until he doesn't perform or he isn't able to live up to those obligations, really, what can we complain about?
No. One last thing I wanted to get your thoughts on is they announced a week or so ago, 10 days ago, they announced a heavyweight matchup, two contenders, Adam Koznacki going up against Chris Arreola. It's taking place August 3rd in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center. I love this fight, Dax, and I'll tell you why. I like the fight because it does feature two guys fighting each other, with the winner presumably moving up and getting a shot at a world title, or at least an elimination bout or closer to it. And, you know, with these two particular guys, obviously Chris Arreola is beyond, way past his prime. But I got to tell you, I sat near him in Vegas, and he looked like, and then even the promotional photos of this fight, he looks like he's in the best. Now, granted, he had clothes on. He had his shirt on and everything else. But he looks slim. Did you get a chance to see him? I think he looks like he's in really good shape. Not that, you know, maybe it won't matter, but I think Koznacki may be getting in the ring with the best version of Arreola we've seen in a long time.
You know, no matter how good of shape he's in physically, and I have seen pictures of him, he does look slim. He's taken a lot of punishment inside that ring, so his reflexes and so on are just not there anymore. Always loved Chris Arreola because he was an all-action, all-out fighter. But, you know, right now he doesn't have much to offer. Funny enough is that Andy Ruiz fight Anthony Joshua. After his fight before that, he says, I think the fans want to see two chubby guys go in the ring and go at it next, and he called out Koznacki, and I think that would have been a sensational fight. But we'll see what happens. You know, if Koznacki beats Arreola handily, I think it should be an all-action fight no matter what. Then I would like to see Koznacki go in against, you know, the next level. He's a small heavyweight, but, you know, you have to just love the way he's in people's chest. He's punching nonstop. He's exciting, but, you know, how can he take a punch from a bigger guy? That's the only thing that we're going to have to find out. But, yeah, I definitely like the fight.
He's
but, you know, it's not.
He's busy. He's a busy fighter for a guy that appears to be out of shape. Andy Ruiz showed that against Anthony Joshua. He kept throwing a lot of punches, and it definitely makes up the difference. Yeah,
I mean, of course, you know, as a lot of people, you know, keep forgetting, it takes a lot less oxygen to feed fat than it does muscle. That's why the muscle-bound fighters are always gassed, and we've seen that with Anthony Joshua, for example. So, you know, these guys, just because they, you know, they're a little rotund on the outside, you know, don't overlook them.
Hey, I don't have anything against the guys that are a little rotund on the outside. Dax, I appreciate it.
Hey, before we go, just got to tell you, we have a new fan built inside chat room. Her name is Patty Blue. She goes under the name Love It. She's just getting back into boxing. She never misses the show. And the last couple of weeks, she's been saying, where is Dax, Billy, Alex, and Sal? I've been coming on every week. She actually thought there was a problem with her YouTube, not on our end.
I've been getting calls, and you know, yes, I apologize at the opening of the show, but Dax, we look forward to you next week, brother. Actually, next week, guess what? We're off next week. The week after, next week's the 4th of July weekend. So
I got doctor's hours here.
Yeah, me too. It's starting to get bad. But Dax, I'll talk to you soon.
Have a good one.
That's Dax Khan. You can check him out up on Billy C Boxing. Yeah, that is a programming note. We're celebrating the 4th of July holiday next weekend, so it's going to be tough to do a show. Hey, speaking of tough, you guys have heard me talk about James Scott in the past. It was a fighter that we'll always remember watching on TV. Larry Hazard and myself talked about him. James Scott was doing time in jail in Jersey for murder, and we used to watch his fights on prime time TV, the regular networks in the late 70s and early 80s. He did finally get out of jail after spending most of his life behind bars. I'll forever remember watching these fights with the inside the prison with the razor wire and all of that. Made an impact on me. He was released from prison in 2005 after he had been in jail for over 28 years. In New Jersey, he was inducted into the New Jersey Boxing Hall of Fame in 2012. He had been suffering from dementia and passed away last month on May 8th. He was 71 years old, and I just wanted to give him his props. He made an impact on me, so my condolences from all of us here go out to James Scott and his family. So I wanted to read another email real quick, and then we're going to take a break and get my man Alex on the line. This one is from Jesse. He says, "Hey, Billy C, long time no seeing you." Yeah, I know. We're sorry, all right? We're sorry. He says, great win for Andy Ruiz. He made history with a big upset. Proved to doubters and the talkers that Andy, the chubby man, can fight. Still saw some holes in his fight game, extending his left, didn't use his jab enough. His uppercut was there, and an uppercut was there against him to the taking, and he saw that it was there for AJ with the taking, and he worked well. He says, AJ, I feel, didn't use his jab and his reach, didn't fire the right like he was used to. Overall, excellent, entertaining fight. Why can't Mexico get AJ against Ruiz rematch? Is it in the money? He says, like to see Callum Smith against Jacobs, David Benavidez, or Gilberto. He says, are you going to watch this is an older email, are you going to watch the Paulie Malignaggi bare knuckle bout? No, I had no interest in Paulie Malignaggi, got his ass kicked. But, I give Andy Ruiz a lot of credit for the fight. There's no question about that. The reason why he won that fight is simple. He threw more punches when he needed to. When he got hurt, he came back throwing punches. Anthony Joshua pulled a Mike Tyson. What I mean by that is that he took Ruiz lightly, just like Mike Tyson took Buster Douglas lightly. Just like Mike Tyson was in Tokyo partying it up, not training. I don't care what anybody says. Anthony Joshua was in Miami partying it up, not training. And it was evident on fight night when he ran out of gas. I'm not so sure the punches knocked out Anthony Joshua as much as Anthony Joshua knocked out Anthony Joshua. He couldn't breathe. He was just totally spent. I think anybody that would have connected with a couple of shots in that fight at that stage would have knocked out Anthony Joshua. It's going to be interesting to see what transpires. As far as I know, the rematch is signed. As a matter of fact, from the last news I heard was that the fight was going to be held here in the States again, something that Anthony Joshua is pushing for. I give Andy Ruiz a lot of credit for signing to fight Anthony Joshua again immediately. Obviously, it was a rematch clause. He could have weaseled out of it and gotten himself another fight or two. But I think he's making a smart business decision because his value has gone up either way. Even if Anthony Joshua should beat him, Andy Ruiz is going to have plenty of people knocking on his door offering him money to fight or have their fighter fight him because he was a former champion. On the other side of the coin, should Andy Ruiz beat Anthony Joshua again, well, this guy is all of a sudden going to be in the driver's seat in the heavyweight division. So I think it's a smart business decision on Ruiz's part. Hey, listen, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're scheduled to have Alex Papp Ali join us. Don't go anywhere.
Billy C will be right back.
Snacking has never been this exciting. At Graze.com, we combine wholesome ingredients with the flavors we all love to create over 100 exciting snacks. Like these. send you a great sampler box for free. Just go to Graze.com, enter the code ENJOY36, and we'll mail your free box to your home or office. Join thousands of grazers already in love with our exciting snacks. So come to Graze.com for your first box free.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt. The innovative technology works to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this.
Nothing gave me any relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604. Listen to this important message.
Endless pools are an incredible alternative to pools, making it easy and inexpensive to swim at home. Exercise year-round against a smooth current set to your desired pace and temperature. With our new underwater treadmill, you can walk or run without stressing your joints. Endless pools are simple to install and even simpler to maintain. The water stays crystal clear with almost no chlorine. Call for your free idea kit and experience the freedom of swimming at home.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man. www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com, and tell them Billy C sent ya.
The one, the only, Don King.
Makes me feel good, Billy, to have you, the number 1 show in the country, talking boxing with Billy. So I invite each and every American that's listening to this great show to tune in, because we want you to be there with Billy and me.
Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C., the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C, damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
The undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C.
Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C Show. Glad you could be with us and joining us right now. You know, I'm a little disappointed. I got to be honest. You know, I was seeing all these photos of my man Alex, and he had the Billy C look, man. He had the mustache. He had the glasses on, and all of a sudden he pops up. I get the camera on him, and we got the clean-shaven version of Alex Papp Ali. Good morning, Alex. What's going on?
Good morning, Billy C. I only stuck with the mustache for about a week.
Oh, gosh. You know, you look so good. Come on, were people confusing you with me or Freddie Mercury? Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about the big, exciting fight you saw. You had the privilege of seeing Chad Dawson. Bad Chad, not bad meaning good. He's just bad now. I mean, Chad Dawson. How did he look, my man?
He was looking decent, but then he tripped over an uppercut in the 5th round, and he really benefited from what seemed to be a little confusion from referee Mike Ortega. At least where I was sitting in press row, we were kind of, it looked like incompetence or just plain, he was giving Dawson time to recover. But it was a sloppy fight, and Dawson was fighting Quentin Rankin, who he's 15-5-2 with 12 KOs. But he's an awkward southpaw, and he was not there as much to win as he was to not get stopped. And in the 5th round, he struck gold. Chad was, they were in close, and Chad was landing a little more often. And Rankin caught him with an uppercut that Dawson kind of just, his knees went out, and he sort of slumped straight down. And as he went down, Rankin threw another shot at him that didn't really hit him, kind of grazed him. Well, there was no count. And Dawson was clearly hurt. Mike Ortega sent Rankin to a neutral corner. Dawson got up, recovered. And then Ortega gave him a very stern warning. Meanwhile, the clock's ticking away, and Dawson's badly hurt. I mean, his legs were jelly. Then they come together again, Rankin, surging because he wants to stop this guy. And in that little fracas there, it appeared that Rankin caught, at least Dawson was complaining that Rankin caught him with an elbow. And so Mike Ortega separates them and penalizes Rankin a point, and takes quite an awful long time to do so. So all that momentum that Rankin had there was completely gone. But for a minute, it really looked like, wow, we're about to see the end of Chad Dawson's career.
I thought we've already seen that.
Well, to his credit, he did get himself together and battle back. He was lucky it was only an eight-rounder because the thing that happened, and it seemed that it could very well have been from that elbow, his eye was swelling very rapidly. But, against an awkward opponent, he did hammer out a win. The thing is that, it's a tough one. Knowing what's out there at light heavyweight, it could be that his chin is not what it used to be. The thing about getting knocked out is once you get knocked out, usually you're easier to knock out. And it does seem as though that might be the case with Chad Dawson because his chin, I don't know, I don't remember him being chinny. But now it does appear like if you catch him, you could get him into trouble. And that wasn't usually the way he was when he was younger. I mean, he's 37 years old, so, hey, you can't do this forever. It's a young man's game.
He clearly seems to just trying, he clearly seems to be trying to get himself, one more big payday. The thing is what does a current champion or even a top contender achieve by beating Chad Dawson? I don't think that aside from a glimmering piece of name, because there's a whole generation of young fans that have never seen him really fight. He was never known towards the end of his career as being a busy fighter, staying busy. So I don't know. I mean, maybe he should review the film and decide to hang him up for good, unless he's, financially strapped.
Yeah, I'm not sure where there is to go if he continues with this comeback, because I think the thing about it is that light heavyweight 175 is a pretty rich division, and the thing about him is that most of the guys there are pretty big punchers. So I don't know, how well Dawson will fare against them, especially, with he's not as sharp as he used to be, and so much of his skills were based on you can't help that, at his age. But, because one of the fights he talked about was Kovalev, at least, in some of the press materials. I don't know. If Kovalev catches him on the chin, it's good night. So, I don't know. It was a good night of boxing, though. I mean, all the fights went the distance, so it was kind of long of an evening, but we did also get a view of Tremaine Williams, who is also originally fought out of that same gym as Chad Dawson, as Ring 1 in New Haven, but now he is trained by Mike Conroy, whose gym is in East Haven, Connecticut, and Midget is with Rock Nation, but this was a CES card. And he's really a talented featherweight. The thing that I think he suffers from, at least last night, was that he was, a lot of guys do this. They're counter punchers. So you're waiting and waiting for something to happen. But in spots, Williams is just so speedy. He's another southpaw, but like I said, he was 123 pounds last night. In spots, he can be really brilliant. He's now 18-0. Hopefully we'll see bigger and brighter things for him.
The whole sport in general, you get a talented fighter and they overprotect him, and you end up seeing fighters emerge like Jermall Charlo last night. I don't know if you had a chance to see the fight yet, but I'm not impressed with either Charlo brother, and yet they're both champions, and I know that it's a great story, et cetera, et cetera. I just think the sport is preventing its own from getting better and better from the fear of the possibility of losing a fight, and it's a shame because as I broke down and looked at the middleweight division, it's a three-headed monster. You got Canelo, you got Triple G, and you got Daniel Jacobs, and then the next guy is Charlo, and I can't see it. But then when you look at the rest of them, it's just not full of talent.
Yeah, and I think that what we of those top guys, Golovkin, Canelo, and Jacobs, all three of them tend to be kind of fun to watch. Whereas the Charlo brothers have been in the past. What I saw last night, I was falling asleep, so I went to bed. But part of it was I didn't start watching it until 1:30 in the morning. But because think about it. Imagine if you have a title eliminator between Charlo and Andrade, and wow, that would not be too fun to watch.
Well, I was going to get to that. I was going to ask you, but since you brought him up, Demetrius Andrade is a guy that has never been known for his excitement. And last night, he dropped his opponent, Saluki, in the first round. I said to myself, oh, finally, somebody told this guy that he's got to get exciting and he'll get bigger paydays, he'll get better fights, he'll get better opportunities. And then I fell asleep, watching him. He's horrific to watch. I mean, it's just and he just does enough to win. I mean, if it was in the cards and you could see a guy like Andrade fight Charlo, I would be interested. But because they're representing different sanctioning bodies and different promotional outfits, unfortunately, you never see those fights.
Yeah, that is a bummer, and I think that is what tends to be sort of the bugaboo about this sport, and it's what we're getting now with that. The good fights are out there, waiting to be made, but we can't have them because of all the financial affiliations with all the players, and that's really unfortunate because that's not what fighters want, and that's not what fans want either. So it's weird because when you think about it, I mean, I've been watching this sport since December of 1985, and last night it was pretty crazy when you think about it. Boxing was on and available to watch in like 3 or 4 outlets, and yet I don't know, it still isn't quite as popular as it was back in 1985.
Yeah, well, maybe if they made more exciting fights. I don't care. You know, I've said this many, many times. I'm not looking for the quantity of boxing on television or streaming service or whatever, wherever you can watch them these days. I'm not looking for the quantity. I'm not looking to say, oh, geez, I got 90 choices on fights. I just want to see quality. And out of all the fights that were on last night, and I agree with you, there really wasn't one quality matchup. I mean, Brandon Adams, nice guy. I know him. I got to spend some time with him during the ESPN tournament that they had. Always smiling. Very limited in skill set. This is a guy that took on boxing late. Was a football player, if I recall correctly. And, you know, he's the guy that gets in the ring against Charlo. I mean, it doesn't make sense. The same thing with Demetrius Andrade. I mean, the fight you were at with Chad Dawson, I mean, here's a guy coming off of a layoff. I mean, you can't really criticize him for his opponent. And as it turned out to be a dangerous opponent. But, it's a shame. It's a shame. I'll tell you what's even more of a shame, Alex. Check this out. I did the rankings for middleweights, and it shocked me to see how weak the middleweight division currently is, and it really is, because I thought it wasn't, but it really is. Aside from the top 3, you got nobody, right? But for kicks, I wanted to see what the computer, and I've been an advocate for the computer, saying, well, the computer rankings mean something. Now I'm starting to second guess that, because I did an all-time middleweight ranking, the top 50. And Carlos Monzon is ranked at number 1. Now, I don't feel that terrible about that, except for the part where Sugar Ray Robinson is ranked at number 3. Wow. And the guy at number 2 is Bernard Hopkins, who I have no problem. But I mean, listen, he was a throwback fighter, but the second best middleweight in the world over Sugar Ray Robinson. Hagler, your boy Hagler's number 4.
Where's Harry Greb?
Number 5. Okay. Saul Canelo Alvarez is already at number 9. All right. Okay. But check this out. Jermaine Taylor's at number 17. But the ones that really bothered me was Stanley Ketchel. You don't see his name till number 20. I mean, how can that be? How can that be? And I was happy to see that Iran Barkley did make it in the top 50 at number 46. But rounding out the number 48 spot was Lloyd Marshall, and number 50, Holman Williams, both guys that should be higher. So the computer rankings, I'm starting to second guess, and I meant to bring it up with Dax, but I know you're a big fan of Sergio Martinez. He's ranked as the 13th best all-time great middleweight, and I'm sorry, I just can't see it. Yes, he was a linear champion. Yes, he had some good wins, but for the most part, he was a junior middleweight.
Right. I was just going to say he was barely a middleweight. Yeah. So the idea that that would be nice to think of him as all-time great quality, but I don't think if you were to put him in with a tournament with any of those bigger guys, they would hurt him because not only were they highly skilled, but they were just plain bigger and stronger than him. And that was one of the things that was fun about his reign, was that he boxed beyond his physical limitations. He would get you by outspeeding you and just plain volume of punches. And I don't know, that was fun to watch. It was almost like every time he fought, it was sort of David versus Goliath. But in terms of an all-time great. And that doesn't really make sense to have Bernard Hopkins that high and then Jermaine Taylor that low. Taylor has 2 wins over Hopkins. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and you wonder, what does the computer value wins too highly? Because some of those guys, like you said, Lloyd Marshall, Holman Williams, they might have a lot of losses on their career, but they were absolute badasses. So yeah, I don't know. Speaking of badasses, did you see who I came home with? Came home from Canastota with?
I love it, man. You wait till when you watch the replay of this show. Wait till you see how good it looks in the shot. But you look at Carlos Monzon, 87 wins, 3 losses, 9 draws throughout his career. Sugar Ray Robinson at number 3, 174 wins, 19 losses, 6 draws. I mean, almost 100 more wins, roughly. But when you look at a guy like Harry Greb, 262 wins, 17 losses, 18 draws. Plus, by the way, this guy's career ended early because of his, him passing after the surgery. And Saul Canelo Alvarez at number 9 has got 55 professional fights total. He doesn't even come close to these guys' win total. So I don't know. I'm a little confused of how they do the computer rankings, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that is tough, and yeah, you wonder what the criteria is. How does it stack them? How does it compile the data? One thing I did want to mention, and Billy C, this probably won't surprise you because you've been involved in female boxing for a long time. But one of the best, probably, at least I thought the best fight on the card last night was the female fight. And it was through with 2 women who were very inexperienced. One was 0-2 out of Clearwater, Florida. Delaney Owen was her name. And the other was making her pro debut, Marissa Valencia of New Haven, Connecticut. She is one of these 2-sport fighters because she had fought for CES previously for their MMA division. Probably a draw, but they gave it all to the New Haven fight. It's kind of not surprising to see that. However, it was the typical. The reason why it was so much fun is you had Owen in the boxer role, and you had Valencia coming forward in that aggressive puncher role. And no matter how you slice it, that always makes for a fun, engaging match. And this, had people, as usual, both women were slugging right to the bell, and the crowd was going nuts. And it was like the first pro fight of the night. There was also some amateur fights on the card.
Jeez, that was it sounds like a long night for you.
It was a long night. We got there at 5:30, and we got home at it was like 10 after 1.
Yeah, I was long in my feety pajamas by then. But anyway, Alex, great job as usual, and we will not be doing next week. After all of these technical issues, then we got the holiday next week. But anyway, we'll be looking forward to you when we come back the week after.
Sounds good. Hey, I just wanted to throw in there that. Tyson Fury, as much as, like you and Dax covered, you do have to take into account who he was up against. But I tell you, he looks sensational. It's unfortunate these heavyweights aren't fighting each other, but we right now should be grateful because we have 4 guys. We've got a pure slugger. We've got the guy who looked like he might have had it all in Anthony Joshua. That, who knows what's going to happen. Then you got an amazing stylist in Fury, and the guy who might be the best fighter is the cherubic-looking chubby Mexican who I saw Springs Toledo up there, and he wrote a really nice article about Andy Ruiz's win up in Canastota, and he said the guy couldn't look mean if he tried.
I know. Hey, speaking of heavyweights, everything goes back to heavyweight for me, and I for kicks I wanted to see how the computer generated the all-time heavyweight top 50. And they have Muhammad Ali number 1, your new roommate Joe Louis at number 2. All right, but here's where it starts to get a little crazy. Evander Holyfield at number 3. Listen, Evander was a great fighter, and I can't take anything away from him. But number 3, here's another shocker. At number 4, Floyd Patterson.
Oh, come on.
I mean, I love Floyd. He was one of the nicest guys I ever met in person. But he was no way the 4th best heavyweight in the world. Rocky is number 5. Larry Holmes, number 6. Gene Tunney, number 7. Jack Johnson all the way down at number 8. Followed by Vladimir Klitschko at number 9. Joe Frazier, 10. Sam Langford, who many think should be number 1, is number 11. Jack Dempsey, number 17. Sonny Liston, number 18. So, Tyson Fury is already in at number 31. Behind, already in there at number 24, David Hay. Andy Ruiz made the cut. He's at number 43 already.
Wow.
James Jeffries.
Where was Larry Holmes?
Larry Holmes, number 6. James Jeffries, who many people believe was the greatest heavyweight of all time. Really, a lot of people say it. I mean, considering that he retired originally because they felt no one was good enough to step in the ring with him. He's at number 48 in the top 50. So my respect for the computer rankings is really taking a hit after this week. I'll tell you that, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But, anyway, Alex, it was great chatting with you, and thanks for the blow-by-blow with Chad Dawson, because I was on the edge of my seat for that one. And we'll look forward to it next time, brother. All right?
Billy C, take care.
All right, take it easy. That's my man, Alex Papp Ali. Listen, we're going to take a short break. When we get back, we're scheduled to have Emily Harney join us. So don't go nowhere.
Billy C will be right back. Part of the Billy C Boxing Network.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
You save a lot of money. It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American Warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt. The innovative technology works to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604. Listen to...
Are you you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. He may not have an Excellence in Broadcasting award, but the night's still young.
And he's got martinis.
So you never know what may be by morning. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C.
Talking Boxing with Billy C. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us and joining us right now. Wherever she is, it looks like it's beautiful weather out because it's certainly not like that here. Boxing's best photographer, Emily Harney, joins us. Good morning, Emily.
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, good. Where are you?
Do you want to know? Let me see if I can flip this camera around. I don't know if I can do this.
You're not. Oh, I was gonna say because it looks beautiful. What fights were you at last night?
I was in Rhode Island last night. I'm currently though in Beverly, Massachusetts, right on the border of Beverly and Salem. So this is our backyard. So
nice.
Not bad.
Yeah, it's very nice. Tell us about the Joseph Parker fight. I mean, if you were ringside for that in Providence, I thought that it was a decent matchup between him and Lepai. He came on and stopped him in the 10th round. Tell us about the fight.
Yeah, I mean, Lepai took some really big shots early, and quite a few of them. If Parker, I think, had followed up with a few more in between those big shots, I think that fight would have been stopped sooner. Not that Leopold couldn't take the punches. He was definitely a durable, worthy individual to be in there with him. And to be honest with you, after going through the media workout, I didn't expect that fight to go as long as it did. Watching Leopold kind of come over with these massive right overhand punches to his trainer, I thought Parker may have capitalized on that, but he wasn't really able to do that as much last night with Parker. Both of them landed some nice thuds, but it was really just he was a durable opponent for Parker, and I don't think he was anybody that was really in his way. But it was a worthy matchup in comparison to what I expected from the media workout. So it was decent.
Joseph Parker was a world champion. He kind of hit the scene kind of quickly and then was out. He's trying to get back into the mix. And I personally looked at him as a fighter who is young and is learning. And now we're trying to see him get back into the conversation. Do you feel that he is? Do you feel that, his last several fights, climbing back up, so if you will, and then obviously the fight last night, is he getting better? Is he making a statement that he does belong in the conversation, or does he still need some work?
No, I mean, I think there's a little bit of both there, because you got to look at who do you have as opponents that you can get in the ring with and dance with. And we know, of course, the big names that everybody wants in the heavyweight division. But, who do you have to fight to get there? And I think this was one of those steps that he had to take. You didn't want to see him fight just somebody who came in to get the paycheck. You wanted somebody who was going to at least put up a fight and make him work for it. And he had to do that last night. So I think he's going to get himself in the mix. I don't think there'll be a problem there. Like you said, he's young. They just need to keep him active. And so how do you keep him active? With four 4, 5, maybe 6 names that are viable in this business, and all of those guys, the majority of them, are lined up to fight somebody else or hopefully to fight somebody else. So, you got to look at who is available that he could fight, who would put him in the right position to get him back into the title contention. There's certainly opportunity, but it's like timing is everything right now, and you don't want to sit around too long and wait for a Joshua or a White or a Fury or a Wilder, because we know that these guys are going to have to fight other individuals before they fight Parker. Unless they think, oh, Parker will be an easy fight on an in-between. And I don't think that's the case, because he's hungry and he wants it just as much as anybody else. And so coming around on your second opportunity, you're not going to, pull any punches. You want to hang it all out there.
He has been somewhat busy on his return, so we'll be looking forward to that. Main event, Demetrius Andrade won a. He's a boring fighter, Emily. I mean, in the first round, I'm like, oh, okay, and I was here. I am on the edge of my seat. I'm like, oh, he drops, and I was impressed that he even dropped Saluki, because Saluki's a pretty tough guy, and I'm like, oh, finally. He's going to let his hands go. He's going to have some excitement. He's going to be in the mix. And I start thinking about, he could fight this way. He could fight. And then I woke up. I literally fell asleep. I mean, I had to rewind just to see what the outcome was. To go to distance. I mean, he's just too cautious. Is it? What's your thoughts? Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong, please.
No, it's funny, like the third round, and I was excited in the first round too, so I'm like, all right, got to shoot a lot because this might, end quickly, and, really pay attention to what's happening here and really, stay on my game. And then by the third round, I'm like, I'm having a flashback to Boston right now, where things are starting to pucker out, and he's starting to fight really from the outside. Those few punches, get away, a few punches, be a little awkward, fight really low. And how long can you do that for? He had a good crowd there last night who was excited, and, maybe they'll follow him again for another fight because they haven't seen as much as we have in terms of this is what we keep getting from him. But what happens when you fight a Canelo? What happens when you fight somebody that's going to cut the ring off from you? Sulecki didn't do that to him last night, and I was kind of hoping he would, and I don't know if he was afraid to get in the mix after getting hit with that shot, like he really felt that, so he thought, well, I'm just going to fight here from the outside and let him dictate how this goes and get in where I can. Because when he did get in on the inside of him, he was able to land some punches. He was even able to land some punches from the outside, but it was much more difficult. So, I heard somebody go, well, he was crafty. No, it wasn't crafty. Crafty is exciting and crafty is fun to watch. And by the 5th or 6th round, you were kind of
I've been waiting for him to just step it up, in terms of excitement level. And I also watched the Jamal Charlo fight. Now, Charlo is a guy who tries to be exciting and tries to be busy, just has never really fought anybody. And I actually thought that a matchup between Jamal Charlo and Demetrius would actually be a good matchup, because I would think that Charlo would try to pull some excitement from Andrade, and I'm trying to believe that if the opponent wanted it, Andrade could possibly do it. Am I wrong to think that?
That's what I want to believe too, 100%. And it's because who have we seen him in there with? People that like maybe can mix it up a little bit, but might be afraid based on, what they've heard about him. I don't know, but I think you need somebody who really isn't afraid to press the action and just get in there with him and force him to fight on the inside. 12 rounds of fighting on the outside is like, who's going to do that in the middleweight division? That's in your top guys. I don't see Canelo doing that. I don't see Triple G doing that. I don't see either of them being worried about getting hit by somebody like Andrade, because they've been hit before. Charlo and him would be a great fight. if they can actually make it happen. Maybe they will press the action. Maybe they will force each other. And that's the thing, like, I don't want to poo-poo Andre too much because, you know, we haven't seen anybody really go in there and press against him. And so that's what we need to see. We need to see, can he be tested? Can he take the chin hit? And we don't know that yet. So as snoozy as he can be, I want to believe that it's still in there. And I've wanted to believe this from the amateur days with him, that, you know, he's got it in him to really be great. And even just with the people, he has the ability to do that. But for whatever reason, it lacks.
You know, he was more exciting earlier on, and that's what captivated me and hooked me to be a fan. But he's let me down these last several years. The other thing I noticed with Demetrius in his fight last night was that he seemed so much bigger than Saluki, and that could have been a good explanation of why he fought cautiously. But as he moves in that division, should the fights that we're talking about ever be made, he's not going to be that much bigger. Will that make a difference with his style, in your opinion?
No, I don't think it'll make a difference, because I think he's starting to, like, really kind of feel himself in that size range. And that was something we talked about prior to the fight, is that he is a bigger guy. He's more meaty, if you will, and muscular, if you will. So how hard is it to move like that? But I think he's really coming into his own. That's one thing with him, like his team, his strength and conditioning and nutrition-wise really seem to be on point. I don't know if weight was a factor at all for him for this. He came in at 159.9, but I think we all lost pounds sitting outside in Providence this week. So, you know, it's one thing that you haven't heard with him, that weight has been an issue, but whatever he did conditioning-wise is making him, you know, certainly seem like a bigger fighter. But, you know, he seems to make weight.
I heard that he's on a Eat Fresh menu from Mexico. He gets a lot of beef from Canelo, sent him, or Stay Fresh, whatever the heck it is. Anyway,
hey, at least they're eating the same thing, right?
Yeah, but then it evens it up. But when you look at the computer rankings of the middleweight division, I up until I really looked, and I'll be honest, I really started analyzing it early this morning. And I always started a middleweight division, like, we're talking about the heavyweight division, being exciting. And I said, the middleweight division, it's exciting. It's not, because there's only 3 guys in the division that separate themselves from the rest of the division. That's Canelo, Triple G, and Danny Jacobs. Then you got Charlo at number 4. Demetrius Andrade is sitting at number 7. And like you just alluded to, Charlo, who's a WBC guy, Andre, the WBO guy, that kind of eliminates the possibility of those 2 guys fighting. You got wild cards in between them, and Jeff Horn and David Lemieux, and I wouldn't mind seeing either one of those guys fight either one of either Andre or Charlo, but is it possible? Is it possible with the way the sanctioning bodies control everything, is my point.
I think anything's possible. We've seen what Matchroom's done so far. I feel like they're willing to make things happen for whatever they need to, and it's not like they're buying somebody. They're legitimately making these fights happen because they need to happen, and they should happen. And there are guys that are on the in between, like you said, those wild cards that are in the mix too. So they're deserving of it. You don't want to see them fighting somebody that they just walk right over. You want these fights to be lucrative. People are paying good money to go and see these fights. But you're right; that top 6, 7, 8 fighters, it's very minimal. And who do you have coming up in that division? Not many. I don't think anybody who's at 154 right now, that you're going, oh, well, they're going to be great at middleweight. This is excellent. I don't see anybody coming up. So, I think your mix is going to be slim right now, and you hope that they can make these few fights that need to happen. The other thing here is that you get these guys fighting once, twice a year. And so you could stretch this out, but they're all getting older. So how long can you stretch it out for? People talk about, the rematch with this one and the rematch with that one. Well, if you have fights in the way, you're out a year before that rematch even happens, if that.
Great point. And considering the 2 fights we're talking about in the middleweight division right now, Demetrius Andrade, he fought, his opponent was ranked, where is he? Number 10. He was ranked number 10 and by the computer. I mean, and such a discrepancy there. And then Charlo's opponent was actually ranked number 14. So, I mean, it just shows you. Hey, one last question I got for you before you can go and enjoy the scenery there is Manny Pacquiao against Keith Thurman. Thurman is coming out with some crazy stuff. I actually kind of like this fight because I think Thurman has been regressing. He has not looked good in his last couple of fights, and even Josito Lopez hurting him. Even Manny Pacquiao at 40 years old, I think is going to give Thurman all kinds of trouble. But Thurman coming out saying, and I'm sure we could, chalk some of it up to try to help sell tickets, but saying that, he's going to stop Pacquiao early on within 5 rounds, that's wishful thinking in my opinion. What's your early thoughts on that matchup?
It's great to be confident, right?
Jeez.
I'm not going to knock him for that, but you got a guy who's been in there with everybody, and he's got a resume that people would kill for. And I have no doubt that Thurman's going to bring everything he possibly can because this is your stage. This is really your biggest name and your biggest fight to date. When you think about who else you've been in there, yeah, there's been other great matchups, but like in terms of names and in terms of getting your name in that mix of I fought Manny Pacquiao, this is a big deal. I think he's definitely got an opportunity to beat Pacquiao, but I don't see him stopping him in 5 rounds. I don't see him stopping him at all unless there's some sort of cut or something like that. Pacquiao is. Well, I feel like he's going to.
Yeah, my early thoughts is that Pacquiao's hand speed, even at 40, and the fact that he punches from all those crazy angles is going to give Thurman all kinds of trouble. He's not going to know. He's going to be in there and say to himself, man, he's never seen anything like this before. But in any event.
And you know what? He should. I mean, that's what he needs, and I think that's what all these guys need is that opportunity to see something that they haven't seen before so that they are challenged. And, it's the same thing with Andre. You want to see him pressed. You want to see him take a few shots to see what do you got, because we haven't seen that.
You're right. Well, I wish I was with you right now. It looks beautiful there, and we'll look forward to you next time. We are off next week. I know we've been having all this trouble, and I was like remembering, that's right, we're not even on next week, but the week after we'll be looking forward to you.
All right, I'll find a new location for that one.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Now I'm going to be jonesing for wherever the next place is going to be. Better than where you are. But, Emily, have a good one.
Have a good one, guys.
That's Emily Harney, boxing's best photographer, in a much nicer place than I'm at right now. But in any event, I got another email. Oh, you know what I want to talk about real quick? A couple of weeks back, we had the fight. We were alluding to some issues with this fight now. Andy Ruiz Jr. against Anthony Joshua. And during that fight, there was a round in which there was a lot of discrepancy over the scoring. And when I came on air and I said that I would have scored that round. Now, if you recall, it was the round that Anthony Joshua knocked Andy Ruiz down once. But Andy Ruiz knocked down Anthony Joshua twice, and Joshua was lucky to survive that round. At the end, the commentators were saying that it was scored 10-8, and Chris Maddox 10-8, and everybody 10-8. And I'm sitting there saying to myself, wait a minute, that's not 10-8. And I came up with 9-7. And I talked about that on the show, and everybody said, oh, Billy C., you don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. So I started thinking twice. Maybe I'm wrong, Well, I reached out to Larry Hazard. Now, Larry Hazard's a Hall of Fame judge and referee. Not to mention, he's the current New Jersey State Athletic Commissioner. And I wanted to make sure that what he and I had discussed over the years, many times, as a matter of fact, is how to properly score a fight, and a round, I should say. And one of the problems that we keep talking about with the sport of boxing today is the fact that the judges all know the scoring criteria, but don't seem to prioritize it the same way. Therefore, like, for example, one judge may score a round for a fighter because he threw more punches, whereas another one would score a round for a fighter who landed the harder shots, or has a formula in their head, how many how many little shots equal a hard shot. But anyway, the way it's scored is exactly how I tried telling you guys. 10-point must system. And by the way, if you look up the definition of the 10-point must system, not even, because the WBC put it together originally, so it's in the WBC rules, and it's also even on Wikipedia, as per the WBC. But a 10-point must system means simply this, that you have to score 10 points for the winner of a round and at least 9 points for the loser of a round initially. This is where the confusion comes in. Initially. Now, let me just take a step back. What used to happen was that a referee would score by the round. I'd give it 9 rounds to 3, or whatever. And it created a lot of issues. Plus, it also created the fact that, who did really well in the last part of the round seems to stick in your mind. And when you're scoring by the rounds, a lot of times they would score it in that favor. And I said referee because the referee used to be the one who scored it, but then even judges went to that round system. Then they came to the 10 points. So you start off with a fight. You got fighter A against fighter B. Fighter A wins the round, okay? 10-9. So you start your score with 10-9. So in this particular fight, Andy Ruiz won, in my opinion, won the round. Okay, so you start the score with 10-9. Then you must subtract a point from Andy Ruiz because he hit the deck. You don't just avoid that. He has to be deducted a point for hitting the deck, just like if he was deducted a point for a foul or hitting behind the head. Whatever a referee deducts a point, it would have been taken off then. So you start off with 10-9. You subtract the point from Andy Ruiz because he hit the deck. Now you're at 9-9. But you got to go over to the other side of the ledger, and Anthony Joshua hit the deck not once but twice. So you subtract 2 points. The way that round should have been scored was 9-7. And somebody asked me, well, all 3 of the judges had it. They must be wrong. Yes, they're wrong. They don't know how to score. That round should have been scored 9-7. And I just wanted to congratulate myself for being right, because I was starting to second guess my own knowledge. But anyway, 9-7 is the way it should have been scored. Fighter wins a round, they get 10. If it's no knockdowns, it's 10-9. If a fighter gets beaten from one end of the ring to the other, no knockdowns, some judges will score at 10-8, which I support. Okay, but a fighter that wins the round gets 10, the loser gets whatever, and then you start the deduction of points, either by knockdowns or fouls. 9-7 was the correct way to score that round. Either way, it doesn't matter. Andy Ruiz won the fight. Speaking of Andy Ruiz, we got an email from John out of the UK. He says, I want to say congratulations to Andy Ruiz, who deserves his victory over AJ. Ruiz signed to fight Anthony Joshua when guys like Wilder, Fury, White, and Ortiz all turned down the offers. He then goes on to win in a decisive fashion. Andy Ruiz was the better man on June 1st. He says, I think AJ has shown the class in defeat as he congratulated Andy and made no excuses. Tyson Fury has also shown class by sending AJ a message of support. Unfortunately, some of the other fighters who turned down the opportunity failed to show the same level of class. I will mention that after this email arrived, Fury has been talking smack about AJ. He says, before the Mayweather era, boxers weren't judged by having a perfect record. Ali's career-defining fight, at least in the second part of his career, was the Rumble in the Jungle when he came back from losses to Kenny Norton and Joe Frazier. However, everybody remembers Ali for defeating George Foreman. Perhaps the only fight that was bigger than the Rumble in the Jungle in the 20th century was Joe Louis against Max Schmeling 2. If Louis hadn't lost to Schmeling in the first fight, would it have had the same impact? I agree with you, John, and the answer is no, it would not have. He says Joshua has already shown his class by not making excuses, whilst others have written him off and scrambled to make excuses on his behalf. We will now find out what his true potential is in the rematch and see if he can pass through one of the hardest tests and come back from a defeat, or be labeled as simply overrated. Whatever the outcome of the rematch, Andy Ruiz's valiant victory has put the heavyweights back in the news worldwide, and I believe it's good for boxing. I do too, John. Thank you for the email. I agree with you. One last email I want to catch up on is from my man Jeff. He says, Anthony Joshua, he lost. A loss in the heavyweight boxing. Let's see what he's truly made of now. He handled it like a man. He gave full credit to Ruiz. Let's see how he performs next. Tyson never was the same. Lewis gained sweet revenge. Klitschko was a complete change and then remained at the top of the division for over a decade. Actually, history shows underdogs have their brief time, then fade away. Maybe Ruiz will break the pattern. We will see. This will be a big, thanks for the email, Jeff. We will see, because I think it's going to be a big issue for AJ. I personally think he underestimated Andy Ruiz. And one thing about AJ that I have said for a long time now, Anthony Joshua has a tendency to have trouble against shorter fighters. And I'm saying shorter. Andy Ruiz is a monster compared to me, but 6'4" and shorter is trouble for AJ. So hopefully he'll get some better sparring with some shorter guys and learn how to not only protect himself, but punch downward in a devastating fashion like the Klitschko's learned. The other thing he's going to have to do is do something with his training. He looks like he's in great shape, but he was huffing and puffing. This guy was out long before Ruiz finished the job. But in any event, we will be. I apologize for the delay in shows. We did have some upgrades with our system, and it is a pretty expansive system that we run here. And we finally got all the bugs out, but unfortunately next week is a holiday. So catch up on some of the old shows on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/talkinboxing, TALKINBOXING. Or don't forget to check out our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week television channel. It's on Roku and all the other major streaming devices. Go through GinicoUSA.com, sign up, make sure you enter the code Billy C, and check out the programming on Mondays and Tuesdays. We have previous versions of this particular show. All 24 hours on Wednesday is all blast from the past. It's a great day to watch. Thursdays is a mixture of everything. And then Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, we focus on our specials. Live events we've done and special events, including the Revisited series. So you're not going to want to miss it. Go check it out. Hey, listen, boys and girls, have a safe week. And for all the Americans that like to blow off fireworks, beginning last night from where I am, be careful. Don't blow your hands off. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. We got Jeffrey Sussman scheduled to come on to talk about his new book, Boxing and the Mob. So make sure you tune in. Hey, make sure you tune in next time. Same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.